You know what makes me happy? Seeing two people fall in love. It's a beautiful thing. And if you like a nice, heartfelt romance, Audition is the film for you. Okay, this horror film really stuck with me, so in this video, we're gonna break it down. Let's get into it. If you like this video, maybe consider subscribing. It means a lot. It's Takashi Miike's 1999 masterpiece, which starts like a dating sim and ends like a waking nightmare. It's a real bait and switch. This is Aoyama, middle-aged, grieving, professionally successful, but personally hollow. His wife passed away years ago, his son is getting older, and this guy is extremely lonely.
本当に幸せなやつはこんなコンサート行きませんよ。日本中みんな寂しいんです。
They have a cute dog though. I hope nothing happens to it. So when his son casually suggests that Aoyama should go dating again, he goes to have a chat with Yoshikawa, who's a film producer, and he decides to take a creative approach. A fake audition for a fake movie to find a real wife.
一つだけ方法あるよ。オーディションやるんだよ。
Sounds like a great idea, mate. Starting a relationship on a lie, okay? It's what you want, really. Ethically, it's really murky, but Aoyama sees it as a harmless shortcut to love, and it's tailored specifically to his taste. So cue the montage of awkward interviews.
お父さんの職業とか聞いていいですか？ドラッグに興味はないですか？何か飲食会やったらある？ちょっとやってみてもらっていいですか？
From a cinematography perspective, the framing is very clean, the whole setting is really sterile looking. It's really static, controlled compositions, the room isn't romantic in the slightest. It's like these women are just waiting for a doctor's appointment, as opposed to finding the man of their dreams in sexy, beautiful Aoyama. There's a lot to unpack from this scene, but it really tells you that love in this film is manufactured. It's a performance. Throughout the interview stage, we already know who Aoyama is actually waiting for. And this, of course, is Asami Yamazaki. She's graceful, quiet, beautiful, and she has a tragic backstory, which this guy seems to love.
Yamazaki Asami.
Her background information stuck with Aoyama. It's everything he thinks he wants, and that is the problem. See, this film was based on a book written by an author called Ryu Murakami, and Ryu is well known for addressing really hard topics in society, especially in Japan during the 90s and onwards, and a lot of issues regarding feminism was seen as very taboo. This is what makes Audition go beyond a surface level horror story. Aoyama wants his partner to fit his exact specifications, someone who's pure, obedient, artistic. And this makes this facade of an audition feel really transactional. It's more of a business deal than an actual blossoming romance, an organic relationship. A lot of people would argue that this scene is a display of power because the women are flocking to this man for false reasons, questionable reasons, and he just feels like it's fine to do. It's a brilliant option, just make a fake film, find the love of your life, it'll work really well. This isn't romantic advice. Aoyama, apart from setting up this performance, which is a really shitty thing to do, isn't actually that bad of a person. He's fairly kind, he loves his kids, he's not displayed to be traditionally evil, and that makes the story all the more powerful because there is an essence of sympathy here, okay? This isn't someone who deserves what they end up getting.
女の子か。なんだったら俺の分も食っていいからさ。
But it's one of those situations where it's definitely about the bigger picture, and it wouldn't work half as well if we actually really disliked Aoyama. I mean, you can definitely dislike him for sure, but hate him for everything he's doing? There's worse people out there. So shock horror, Asami isn't who she says she is. No one saw that coming. But more importantly, she is who Aoyama wants her to be. And unfortunately, that is the real horror here. He kind of projects onto her.
綺麗で上品で真面目で素直で。
And because she's quiet and reserved, she becomes this blank slate for his fantasies. But she's aware of that. It's all part of her plan. Not that the audience knows any of that until a little later on. But Asami's silence isn't passive. It's more of a mask. The first droplet of concern I got when watching this was definitely the apartment scene, like the first time you see Asami in her in her natural habitat. It's very minimalist, almost surreal. There's one big bag which moves. I mean, this might just be me, but if you see a bag in someone's room and it's moving around, it might be a bit of a red flag. And she is just waiting for that phone to ring, just waiting, biding her time. It's like her life revolves around this single moment. When the phone rings, she smiles, the camera lingers, there's no music, it's just existential dread. So my natural reaction, as a lot of people would probably have thought the same thing, what is this lady up to? Is her name even Asami? And who is in that bag? Who is in the bag? Asami isn't just mysterious, she's unknowable, and the film really punishes Aoyama for assuming otherwise. What's more is you're not even sure whether or not this scene is even real. There's a lot of complaints, well not complaints, but questions regarding Audition in terms of the chronology, you know, what's going on in this scene, does it actually exist? Confuses a few people. You're left wondering very often, is anything real? Or is it just a hallucination Aoyama is conjuring up in his head? He's heard about the record producer going missing, and the film's first choice is to make us think Asami has kidnapped him. So in the bag is this missing music producer. You'd assume that as the audience, right? It just makes sense for what information is given to us. Really, it's not about whether she has or hasn't kidnapped this music producer, but the fact that Aoyama has already imagined that, and so we are shown it. You shouldn't always ruminate that your date is a insane murderer, although I have heard some crazy date stories. It makes the first watch through of Audition quite tricky to understand, but it's one of those rare examples of a film which really inhabits a abstract approach. It's not supposed to be set in a chronological order, you know, from A to B to C. The dream sequence can be really jarring, the narrative unravels, you see Asami's past, her abuser, fragmented timelines. And the editing gets really erratic, the visuals get distorted, and even the sound design becomes really hostile. It's a massive tonal shift when we reach these scenes. But the deeper you go into the story, the more messed up you realise Asami is. She's partial to the occasional murder, which I can't show on YouTube, so here's a picture of a grumpy goldfish. She feeds a guy his own vomit, so she's quite savvy when it comes to recycling. She keeps severed tongues and fingers in her apartment, so if anyone asked her if she needed a hand, she'd probably say, "No thanks, because I have enough." Such a shit joke. The film works more like a poem in the sense that it's not supposed to be taken literally, but rather you're supposed to unpack the themes and visuals to come to your own decision. And what makes Audition so effective isn't just the gore, even though there's a lot, but it's actually the restraint. The film keeps you anticipating for a full hour. It plays like a melancholic drama, and you're just waiting for it to happen. You don't know what's gonna happen, but you know it's coming. And that's very stressful.
ごめん。それで元気だった。
The climax of the film is definitely the part when Asami renders Aoyama paralyzed with a drug, and then the torture scene begins, which is delightful. It's genuinely horrendous, but damn, it does a good job. You also find out that Asami killed Aoyama's dog, which I don't appreciate. Not the pooch, anyone but the pooch. Come on now. Then of course you get the box, the needles, you know, the words, Kiri Kiri Kiri, which I later found out means deeper, 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 which is nice. Asami speaks in a soft, childlike voice when she slices into Aoyama. Mike holds the shot, there's no cutaways, nothing, he just lets you sit with the pain that Aoyama goes through, and like Aoyama, you can't escape what's going on. I mean, you can't pause the TV and walk away from it, but apart from that. And then Asami apologizes, and they both live happily ever after. Ah. Nah, she saws off his legs. Luckily, Aoyama's son turns up just in time to kick Asami down the stairs, breaking her neck. Conveniently, she lands in a position where she's able to stare at Aoyama So that's quite sweet. This torture scene is one of the most iconic in horror history because it's not senseless aggression, it's very methodical, it's quite symbolic. The fact that it happens in Aoyama's warm, vibrant, lovely house instead of a torture chamber just makes it that much more invasive, but also weirdly intimate. Asami is in complete control, which completely flips the narrative. You start the movie by kind of empathizing with Aoyama, and you end the movie realizing that you actually enabled his gaze as an audience member. You're part of his journey, you understood his perspective, and he enables his fantasy, which was carrying out the audition. This torture scene represents his punishment. Do I think the punishment was a bit far? Yeah, just a little bit, you know, ever so slightly. I titled this video the way I did because I think Audition speaks about society, and it's a very real issue taken to the absolute extremes, but regardless, it's a problem that still exists. Aoyama represents a branch of love. It's this traditional patriarchal view, and it's quite controlling and performative. And Asami is a counterforce to Aoyama's worldview. Asami is a backlash, and her actions are an extreme response to being discarded, manipulated, and idealized. And she's shaped by trauma, you know, she's striking out at a society that devalued her, because that's all she's ever known. You know, she's been treated horrendously. It's a woman pushed beyond words, and she's communicating in the only way she can, which is through pain, or rather, inflicting pain. Audition went on to inspire so many horrors that we love today, like the Saw franchise, Hostel, Gone Girl. The violent nature of the film contributed massively to a movement called Japanese extremity. This is a movement which saw the rise in plenty of films which dealt with extreme violence, body horror, psychological unraveling, or just addressing social issues in shocking ways. And it paved the way for international transgressive filmmaking so everyone could join in on the fun. Obviously, it's an acquired taste. So yeah, if you're thinking of having a new relationship, maybe don't hold a fake audition. That's all I can really say. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe and check out my other videos. Take care.